All right, moving on to a topic that I kind of alluded to. We're going to talk about an ongoing debate about the NBA draft and players coming out for the NBA draft and, what the age limit to be. And Angelino, I just want to toss it to you for this one. I know you have a strong opinion on what you believe it should be, and right now it's you have to do 1 year out of high school and then go into the NBA. What do you feel that the rule should be?
Well, I think that if you're going to go to college, you're going to go to college and try to get your education. I think when most players go to college, especially with this 1 year removed, most players go with the intent to just leave right away and go for the NBA. I mean, no disrespect to them because, that's their dream. That's what they want to do. So for my opinion on this is that I think they should be given a choice. Either if you want if you want a player to get their education, make it 3 years or just let them come out of high school. Because if you really want to get that education, they're going to go to college. They're still going to play basketball because that's their passion, and they're going to get an education that they want to fall back on if that's their intentions. Now, if their intentions are just to go straight to the NBA right out of high school, they should be able to. I don't see any problem with that.
Are you saying that you would rather have them come out of high school or you'd rather have them stay 3 years?
Well, I think it should be their choice.
Okay,
I'm saying giving them a choice. I think that
you think the rule should be they can come out of high school if they want.
Yeah, if they're going to make a rule, either make it out of high school or make it 3 years. If you're talking about them getting an education, then make it 3 years. That way, they have that 1 year to either decide or they can come out, as
I guess
a
what I'm trying to
junior.
get out of you is, do you think that it should be one or the other? Like, should it be high school or should it be 3 years?
Well, I personally think there should be a choice, but if they make a rule, it should be 3 years, at least 3 years.
All right.
I don't think there should be any rule. I think we've seen great players come out of high school. We've seen great players come out of college. I think there's too much unpredictability in life to tell someone that they can't go out and do their dream. I mean, if you have to go to college for 3 years and you get hurt 2 out of the 3 years, your stock drops. You may not be able to compete your dream. You can't be the player that you've wanted to be. People think that if you would have made Kobe wait until 3 years into college that he would be a better player. I'm not so sure. And there's no way to tell. So I mean, if you can play basketball and you can play with the NBA players, then by all means go when you're ready. If you want to go and get your education, that's your choice. So I think it should be choice too, but it should be the player's choice. That let the families decide. I mean, especially if you're strapped for money and you know that you're going to get a good payday when you go in right out of high school if you want. If you're going to be the first overall pick, you can't get better than that. Out of high school, if you're the first overall pick, go to college for 3 years, you can become the 5th overall pick, and that changes a lot when it comes to getting your money, getting your playing time, getting anything you need from your NBA team.
Sonny, what do you think?
Personally, I just think I like having that rule just simply because some players aren't ready. Sebastian Telfair, when he came out, they said if he would have went to Louisville, he would have been a better point guard. Well, what has Sebastian Telfair really done since he's been in the NBA? He really hasn't done much. Not that often are we going to get Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James, those type of athletes that can jump from the prom to the big time league here. And then if you just let the players decide, I think there would be too many guys that aren't ready that would just come out and then just they'd have their dreams broken. Go to college. It's free. You're playing basketball. I mean, it can't get any better than that. Learn from these coaches that can get you better, and that way you can get your draft stock better than what it would be if you left straight out of high school, so that you don't end up like a Sebastian Telfair, where your stock was just kind of or like a I forget his name, Francis somebody. I like having that rule there, so that way I like having a rule so that way they can go to college, at least get part of their degree done, then when they leave for the NBA. Or you could be like a Stephen Curry. In the off season, he went back to Davidson and was getting his degree. You always have that option. That way you're not bothered by kids who are all over campus. It's more quiet. Be a lot easier for you.
I'm going to have to agree. I think that there should be a rule. I think colleges to help develop players, get them mature. I think that I agree that very rarely are you going to get your, Kobe's, your LeBrons, which can ultimately make that step from high school to the pros, fluently, and not have like a rough year adjusting to the NBA. I do believe that I think it should be kind of like football where you have to go 2+ years. That way they can kind of develop more, mature, and I mean there's going to be injuries. I mean to your point, I think that if they just went to the NBA and then they took an injury, I mean, it would hurt them, but I guess I can see where your viewpoint on it derailing them possibly for their life. But
everyone here has made good points for both sides. I think the funny thing about it is that when you talk about players who have gone to the NBA right after high school, for every success story that you have, with your Kevin Garnett, your Tracy McGrady's, your Dwight Howards, you have a failure story. Your Nudie Ebbies, your Robert Swifts. There are just as many guys who came out who shouldn't have come out as there are guys who came out that should have come out. So that's, I mean, of course, when you look at it, it's, 50-50 hindsight, I shouldn't have come out, I should have stayed, should have went to school. It's a lot, it's when it comes to decision making, for a kid who's, 17 years old, it's one of those, life-altering decisions that you could make that could, be the betterment of your family. But if you make the wrong choice and it doesn't work out for you, who knows what's going to happen to you in the long run. So I'm kind of torn about it because every time I think of, well, there should be a rule in place. Well, the one and done rule to me just doesn't make any sense because I don't think that's good for college basketball and, in the long run in terms of like you're going to have all these teams of just a whole bunch of freshmen like Kentucky has, and then the next year, they're just going to re-up it again, and you don't get a chance to have a variety of players in the college game. So I personally think it hurts the college game in general because if a player like Julius Randle you knew was going to be in college and play in a college game for 3 years, who knows the different kind of players that he could play with at Kentucky, on how many national championships he could win, and then talk about all that deal. So I think for me personally, I would like to see a 3-year rule so that you would have to wait at least 3 years after high school to be able to go into the NBA. That means every player gets a chance to at least get some kind of college education, and then at least helps the college game because you get a whole bunch of great players to play on multiple teams as opposed to just all the best freshmen going to Kentucky or all the best freshmen or the top two, maybe going to Duke or maybe going to, Kansas, as opposed to, if there was a great small forward at Kentucky and you were a freshman coming in, you wanted to play, you're not going to go play behind him at Kentucky if he's going to be there again. You're probably going to want to go, somewhere else. Maybe you go somewhere else in the SEC. Maybe you go to Florida. Maybe you go to Alabama even. Maybe you go to places you're going to play. I think that could help the college game. And just in terms of that, as far as having a player, have the right to choose whether you can go pro or not at the age of, 17, 18, I mean, that's kind of hard because those kids make the decision to go, apply for the Army or Navy, at 17 or 18. So, that's a maybe even more so of a life-altering decision, when you look at it in that sense. So, it can either work both ways. I just think that the one-and-done thing is just doesn't work. I don't think that it sends the right message that, hey, I'm going to go to college for a year and then, I'm going to go pro, so I'm only going to college just so I can get ready to go pro. So I don't think that it sends the right message in terms of, having the young people, want to strive for an education. And I think it would be a lot better if there was either a longer rule in place or you just come out of high school. But again, the coming out of high school thing, it could be a 50-50 split. It could work or could not work. And I more so care about the kids that it doesn't work for because they're the ones who go to the pros, it doesn't work out, and then they're the ones that are going to be on the street. Now they're on the street and they don't got no education. So,
I guess
you got to look at it. I look at it for them more because they're the ones who eventually made the decision that didn't work out for them, and then, look at where they are now.
See, I look at it like they're not the only ones making this decision for them. the NBA team is not going to take a chance on you if they don't think that you can play. They're not going to draft you number one. They're not going to take you out of high school if they don't think you're ready. So it's the kid's ultimate decision, but the parents have a say and the NBA teams have a say. The Los Angeles Lakers are not going to go for Kobe Bryant out of high school if they don't think that Kobe Bryant's going to be a game-changing player. And as far as the 50-50 split, that's exactly what it is, but that's for any player. I mean, Chandler Parsons comes out was a second-round pick because people didn't think that he had much to offer a team other than shooting. But you see now that he does a lot more than shooting, and it's really about how you play and who you are after you get into the NBA. It's not about if you came out of high school. It's not about if you went to 4 years of college or 1 year of college. It's about just how you play and who you are as a person.
But Chandler Parsons didn't have the set of skills he had until after he went to Florida.
Yeah, but coming out of Florida, no one believed that he had those skills.
No, right, exactly. But he proved them once he went to Florida. If he would have came out of high school, he probably wouldn't even gotten drafted.
Well, no one's looking at him out of high school. That's my point. That
Yeah.
NBA teams don't look at you if you're not good out of high school. So they're like, oh, he's not exactly what we're looking for. We'll take
And
him in
that's
the
like
second round.
that's like also the 50-50 he was talking about. I mean, look at Adam Morrison. Adam Morrison, him and JJ Redick, they pretty much had almost the same skill set, shooting off the dribble, shooting off picks. They were shooters. And Adam Morrison in college being, however tall he was, 6'8", 6'9", whatever. He didn't really do much outside of shooting. Neither did JJ Redick, but yet JJ Redick still has a job. He's more of a prominent player than Adam Morrison is.
Adam Morrison has more rings.
So does Brian Cardinal, but we're comparing apples and oranges here. But it can go either way, basically, and that's why I kind of had my stance on it, as far as your stance as well. If you're going to make a rule, I say make it 3 years. That way they have that choice either to stay that extra year or not. And, you could even relate it to football. Matt Barkley could have come out and been one of the top picks of that draft. Instead, he decided to stay another year. He got injured, his stock fell a little bit, and, he ended up being a third-round pick. And as far as basketball goes, I think if you feel ready, if that decision is right for you to come out of high school, I think you should be able to do it. At 18, you're a legal adult, and start with some.
Yeah, but not all guys get drafted at 8 or are 18 when the draft comes. Kobe Bryant had to have his parents sign his contract.
They thought it was a good idea. They're like, right there.
Well, it turned out to be a good idea, did it not? I mean, because
him, yes, but then look at Nudie Eby.
I'm saying, look at it.
For him,
the last high school player to get drafted. Well, the last high school player to get drafted before the rule came into effect, before one and done, was Amir Johnson. Amir Johnson isn't the worst player in the league. He isn't Nudie Eby, but he's a player starting on a team, and he's producing what he's producing. I mean, if he goes to a different team, he could produce more, he could produce less. Kwame Brown, but Tyson Chandler came out of high school. He wasn't that player right away, but now he's one of the best defensive players in the league. He developed his skill over his NBA career. I mean, Eddie Curry came out of high school and wasn't that player right away, but then he had his years, and then he just fell off. It could kind of go either way, and I feel like if you're ready to come out of high school, if you think you have that skill set, and a team is willing to take a chance on you, if that's what they're talking about, I think you should have that choice to come out.
Right, but then look at what happens to you if it doesn't work out for you.
That's anything.
That's exactly.
I mean, if it doesn't work out for you, then
but you're left without even the opportunity that you have gone to college and get an education.
You can always go back to college.
Right, but you can't go to college and play. You can't go to college and become a college basketball player after you've already gone to the NBA.
Well, that's true.
You can also.
So then your career could be over.
But this topic is comparing whether you should go into college and come out after. But mainly that point is talking about the education aspect of it.
That's
something to fall back on. So you still,
in terms of the education, yes,
exactly.
But if you're a player and you come out of the NBA and you go to high school and you don't work out, what could have happened to you if you would have went to a college and you could have played? You could have been maybe a leader on that team, developed your skills a little bit more.
So what if you went to college?
Highly productive college player.
So what if you went to college and you got injured and you could have come out of high school? That's just a decision you have to make. And I'm saying that you should be.
Injuries are going to happen regardless. So
not necessarily.
So you're saying that if you go to college and you get hurt, that if I would have came out, I wouldn't have got hurt in the pros.
Maybe not. I mean, Hines Ward missed his first game in his lifetime in like 8 years after he played in the NFL.
No, I
you know what I'm saying? That's a whole career, including college. You never know what's gonna happen.
You never know when you're gonna get hurt. So
exactly.
you can't use the injury thing to
There's gonna
put
be
that
bad,
in.
What I'm saying,
you could get hurt in the pros right away too. Look at Nerlens Noel. Well, he got hurt in college, but he's not even playing this year in the NBA. But he was a 6th overall pick. He still got his money.
But his draft stock did fall. He was going to be the #1 overall pick no matter what, as long as he stayed healthy. Didn't stay healthy, he fell. People were surprised that Anthony Bennett was taken number 1 because everyone still thought that Nerlens Noel was, but because he got hurt is why he fell. And
He didn't fall far.
He didn't fall far, but this wasn't a very good draft class either.
He's still going to get his money, so it's not like, you get hurt, your career's over. Like, if you...
Well, what if his knee is never the same? But
that could have happened to him at any time.
It could have, but my point is that he went to college and he got hurt in college. What I'm saying is the college game did not change what type of player he was.
But if he would have stayed longer, it might have.
It might have.
So we're never going to know. We're never going to know in terms of how long he would develop his game.
But what we do know is that he did come out
and he's Julius Randle right now.
But what we do know,
you know how good of a team that would have been if it were Nerlens Noel and Julius Randle playing together.
We could say that about DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall, that whole Kentucky decade almost. But what I'm saying is what we do.
Imagine what Kentucky basketball would look like if you had John Wall, Julius Randle, DeMarcus Cousins, and Nerlens Noel all on the same team.
We wouldn't have Nerlens Noel. He probably wouldn't be playing.
Anthony Davis.
Maybe Daniel Orton.
Now we have to figure out what we're talking about. We're talking about who's it best for at college basketball, the player, the NBA, because those are all different reasons for who it should be best for.
Mm-hmm.